So welcome back to Local Web Expert, where we shine a spotlight on the local digital agencies that are supporting their local businesses. And this time we're actually talking with someone who works more in the social media aspect. So today I'm excited to be joined by Isabel Chen from FairyFox Digital. She's based right here in Adelaide, and she's not just any content marketer. She transforms single pieces of content into engaging campaigns, doubling the traffic with all these clever social media and content reuse strategies. So I won't take any more of your thunder away, but I'm really keen to catch up and chat to Isabel about all this. So thanks, Isabel, for joining us today.
So thanks, Luke. And
So
thanks for having me on today as well.
yeah, not a drama at all. So I understand that you didn't actually start out originally in the social media space. Your background is as a scientist. Did you want to talk a little bit about how that translates and how you got started in the area?
Okay, so I'll give you the short version because it's a very long story. So the short version was as a child, I wanted very, very badly to be a vet, like any child's dream. And then I studied to be a vet nurse. And when I got my first job at a clinic, I was unfortunately allergic to something. Never had any allergies show up during 3 years of study. Boom, my first clinic job, just tears coming from my eyes. I couldn't even restrain the dog for the vet. And then I had to broaden out to science. So that was when I moved from Singapore to Australia to do university. I did a degree in biotechnology, specializing in biochemistry, so like chemical reactions in the body. And then my first job was in agriculture, like controlling fruit flies in South Australia, which, by the way, if no one knows, fruit flies are a pest in South Australia and we don't have them here. So I was working in like biosecurity. And in 2019, so just before COVID happened, my dad opened an e-commerce store. And as a family member, he then asked me to help him with the marketing side of it. So social media and then doing some website updates, like updating products and all that. Unpaid, of course, as family members are. So I was doing that along with my job as a lab tech in science. But then I thought, okay, this marketing stuff is actually kind of interesting and I think I could get paid for it. So I did a diploma in social media marketing part-time while still working at the lab. And then eventually I graduated from that and I thought I'll just leave science for a while because it's a bit, because like science works on contracts. So it's like very short-term contracts. There's no long-term stability, whereas marketing seemed a bit more safe. So then that was how I left science. And then I switched to social media marketing.
Awesome. And so that first, I guess, you interned with, was it Rachel Pedersen or Peterson?
Yes. I totally forgot about that. Good thing you brought it up. So I I entered with Rachel Pearson and she's known as the queen of social media. So that was during, I can't remember when it was, 2020, 2021, 2022. So it was like she put a call out asking people to submit like an application form to intern with her and to learn about TikTok. That's initially how she promoted it. So
Aha.
out of like I think 9,447 people worldwide, I was picked to be one of them. And then what that whole workshop series did was basically it was teaching you about repurposing content. So she had all these YouTube videos that she had done previously, and then we would get a task each day. You had to take the video. Day one was to like get the hook out of it. So hook is like the attention grabbing piece at the first 3 seconds of the video, and then you would put like the body of the video, and then the last day was basically coming up with a call to action, which is what telling people what to do after they watch that video, and then you piece it together, and it would then we would then turn this like one long YouTube video, I think it was 15 minutes, into less than a minute. So that was what I learned on that internship there,
Yeah.
basically repurposing. And then I just had a revelation that we don't have to create new content anymore. You can just take long videos that you've done in the past and turn them into very short form kind of content that you can put out on social media. Because social media, it's kind of like, I would say it's kind of like a hamster wheel sometimes. It feels like you need to constantly put stuff out to get stuff back.
Yeah, I think that's really important for businesses that, they take a lot of time preparing something and they post one piece and then they go, well, how
Mm,
come that didn't work? It's like, well, did you get it on the right platform? Did you try the right
yeah.
headline? And that's the ability of having one piece that gets broken down and leverage. You're not just leveraging your asset, you're leveraging your time as well and trying to get across many different platforms to see what works and what doesn't. I guess that's really
Mm,
where your science background comes into it, that hypothesize and test kind of
yep.
strategy.
And then sometimes some people prefer to read words, like to
Yep.
read words rather than watch a video. So that's why like it's very important. If you have a video, make sure you transcribe it into a blog as well, because some people prefer read or they like to, use the search function, find particular keywords in the blog and just skim that one paragraph.
So that's one thing I think you mentioned on your website is that
Mhm.
repurpose content that doesn't sound robotic, which is brilliant. That's exactly where I think some people get a bit stuck. So how do you
Yeah.
keep that repurposed content in an authentic and human kind of presentation while stretching it across multiple different platforms of Instagram and Pinterest and wherever it needs to go?
Yeah, okay. So it really comes down to the client. Actually, it comes down to really knowing your business, what they call it, brand foundations.
Yep.
So I have a tone of voice guide. It's basically in the simplest form, it will be words that you use, words that you don't use in your business, certain
Hmm.
catchphrases that you may say, and a really good guideline when it comes to writing captions or copy online. Write it like how you say it. That's how you keep it authentic because the way you speak then naturally translate into the way you write so that it sounds like you.
Yep.
And then once you have that idea, right? Because there'll be certain words you use, there'll be certain catchphrases you use, there's certain words you don't use. And then it comes down to how you want your brand to be perceived online. And I don't do that. That's like what I guess someone else might do. I know some people who can offer that. So if you need help with that, I can refer you to some people. But just basically knowing your tone of voice so that when you then try to repurpose your content, you know how to make it sound like you.
So is that part of what you do as part of that content co-creation sprint, which I think is
So
like a
you
yep.
Yeah, so usually when most people come to me, they're fairly established, so they kind of know what their tone of voice is. They may not have a document, but they'll sort of know what their brand, I think I'll call it like brand vibes, but there's probably a better way to describe it. So they know like, I'm a very fun person. Um, I speak very quickly, so I'll use certain words that are like this. I will not use words that's like overly technical or jargon or anything. I'll just try to keep it simple. And then they'll come to me and then they say, okay, I have all these ideas in my brain, but then I don't know how to turn that into content visually. So they have the
Hmm.
words, but
Right.
then they come to me because they don't know how to execute it visually. So that's part of that. The sprint is one thing. The sprint is like a short workshop that I'm going to be running next week. But I
Yep.
actually have a retainer option that's a longer version of that as well if they need more support.
Yeah, right. And you must have different clients at different stages, some that
Mm,
were wanting DIY
yeah.
with a bit of guidance and some wanting just the complete done for you package.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do have clients at different stages as well. Some are just starting out, maybe like they've done it for maybe like 6 months, then they realize they can't DIY anymore. They need someone to have another like strategic mind in the mix and just look at what they're doing
Yep.
and how they can improve it. And then I have others that are fairly established and they just want to outsource it all because they want to focus on like things that only they can do to grow their business, like coming out with new offers or recording workshops or like being on podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So you've also mentioned that there are businesses out there that do lean too heavy on the social media side of things, and you think you mentioned that as being a bit of a sin. Do you want to elaborate a
Hmm.
little bit on why you feel that way?
Okay, like I said before, social media can feel like a hamster wheel sometimes.
Yeah.
So it can feel like you've always got to like show up to be visible. So what I actually do with most of my clients, what I try to get the DIY clients to do as well, is that when we first start out, maybe we only start with the social media account, maybe we haven't got a website yet, but eventually you want to move those people off social media because it's not a platform that you own. You want to move there somewhere that you have control over. So that would be like your website, which it's
Yep.
owned by you. You can have an email list. Email list is also kind of owned by you so that you have different ways to communicate with all the people they have gotten in touch with on social media. And then sometimes that could be like not relying on one social media platform as well, because some of them serve different purposes. Like, for example, Instagram is a very good channel for, I guess, people to get a bit of a feel of who you are as a person, because like video content does really well on that. But maybe they need to get to like connect with you better. So you could like link them to a podcast to listen to you. And then that's when we get a bit more of that parasocial effect, which is when people think they know you when they haven't met you in person, like they feel familiar with you. And then that's that no like trust factor as well, which a lot of marketers like to talk about that builds that up.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's something that we definitely talk about with our own
Mm,
clients at Amplify Web Design that, building your website is great and it has that very long lasting, you own the platform, you own the digital asset, and it's got a very long lasting window of effectiveness. But it takes time to build that up. Google takes a long time to understand your brand and know who to connect you
yeah.
with, lots of link building. But with social, it's much more in your face, right there, right now, as part of the
Hmm.
algorithm. If you have a traffic problem, you just pay for more, to boost your profile or
Yeah.
boost your advert, and off you go. But it does decay very quickly over time. We say that, so you do need both almost for a business. You want that long term, you invest in a website which you own, that's your long term fuel tank to keep things running and keep things relevant. But you also want to invest for a short term return while that's taking its time to grow and get that real social media presence as well. So in that sort of in the growth aspect, then, what's a business, or you mentioned before there was a very significant business win that you've had recently. Did you want to talk us through what that looked like?
Yeah, so I have a client. So she's a mental health GP. She's based in Gawler, which is like it's called a regional town, but I visited the area and I don't feel like it's regional. It feels like Adelaide to
Just more of
me.
Adelaide.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this client, actually she won't mind me saying her name. So she's called Naomi. She's a mental health GP.
Hmm.
And her aim is actually to improve mental health access in Gawler. So right now, currently, Gawler doesn't have any facilities where people can access mental health resources. So they might get a referral to, say, like a psychologist. They go to one psychologist, then they'll get a referral to like another practitioner. They have to go like somewhere else. So what she's aiming to do is she has a nonprofit called Ducks in a Row Trainings, where 100% of the profits go into restoring this convent that is in Gawler into a mental health hub. So that there's one central location where people can access mental health support. She's planning to get like all the medical allied health practitioners down to work a couple of days in that hub and then also provide people with the supports they need in that hub. So the reason why she's doing that is because people in Gawler right now is either they do access the health practitioners through telehealth, which most of them can't because the Wi-Fi access is so poor there, and then they just won't do it. Or they'll try to access practitioners, but then they're jumping from like one place to another. And when you have a mental health problem, that's really hard for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what she's doing. So recently, I had the time to actually go down to visit her in person just to see this restoration project, and we filmed a video. I didn't have any professional equipment with me. All I had was my phone, a little like tripod thing, no lights, no nothing, and a mic, a very small mic. And then she just started telling me about this building. So before that, she only had photos of the building from the outside. I walked through this building with her. We filmed all the broken walls, all the cracked walls that had water stains coming down. She talked about how she was trying to restore it. She said state government has said they can't help, federal government refuses to help. I don't know what to do. This project is funded by me and my husband, and I know it will change the mental health access for the people here because they really need it. And so that we then put that video out. This was a very raw video. It's not like fancy, professional looking. It's like literally you can see it's on the phone, taken on the phone. The
Mm.
lighting sometimes varies from room to room. And within 48 hours, she told me she got two corporate inquiries ringing her up to ask if she could deliver like employee assistance programs with them.
Yeah. Wow.
And she also got 10,000 views in a week. So there were people like sharing that post. One comment said it left them in tears.
Mm.
And then there's also people who were sharing it and then tagging their MPs and saying, what can we do about it? How can we donate? And we had like links in there to tell people how they could help as well. But it showed like how the content doesn't actually have to be polished to get people to take action as long as there's a very strong story behind it.
Yeah.
It moves people.
Yeah, it seems to be that really authentic,
Mm,
story, like you were saying,
yeah.
and just the rawness of it all is certainly able to grab attention. A lot of businesses will get very worked up or concerned about having, it's got to go through a committee and a conference and make sure that everything's perfect with their
Yeah.
on brand and on message. But that doesn't always work, and it really highlights a shift within the social media aspect where previously people would build out their social media presence as like an art gallery, and
Yeah,
now
like
like
curated feed, like everything looks
yeah.
perfect and
And
no,
now
there's nothing awful going on. Like it's
that's
not
right.
ugly. It's not,
Yeah. Well, it almost seems like a graffiti kind of effect. I
Yeah.
think it's been said before on these other platforms that, you come in and this is the story, here's the authentic piece of it, this is my presentation of it, and then you move on to the next bit. And it's trying to stick and move to see what's going to work and what's going to resonate, while also providing, that authentic version of the story that's coming out to people that resonate with it. So.
Mm.
So I guess one of the things that we struggle with as well in the web design industry is that there's a lot of web designers out there, and it's very hard for people to know who to trust and where to go to. So they often perceive safety within the bigger companies. You've got a big presence and a big marketing
Hmm.
team, etc. So therefore, you must, have a good product to sell. And what we actually find is it's in the web design industry is that oftentimes you're actually better with a smaller group because you're on a one-to-one relationship style, and you actually care as a solopreneur, I think they call them. You actually care about the end result for your client because you have a one-to-one relationship with them. So, do you find that within the social media world as well? And how do you actually, I guess, educate people about what they should be looking for in a social media manager, not just the person they, happen to find or happen to see, or the big agencies that might offer to do it for them?
Look, I've had people who come to me and they said they've worked with like social media managers before, but I think the problem was the social media managers that they work with was very focused on aesthetics. So they would say, yeah, I've had people post like very pretty photos, they were very good looking, but nothing ever happened. And I said, like, did you have some sort of social media strategy in place for what happens, how your social media content is like linked to your business goals? And they would never have that. There was always like missing. So I
Yeah.
think if you're looking for a really good person to manage your social media, they need to have an understanding of strategy. They also need to like understand what your business goals are. So say if you tell a social media manager, so my business goals is ultimately I want to grow my email list because I'm launching like something in December. So your social media manager would then be able to tell you, okay, this is the kind of content we need. We need like in marketing, you know how there's a funnel, like a marketing funnel. That's why
Hmm.
this is our top of funnel content, this is our middle of funnel content, this is the bottom of funnel content. So because you're launching in December, we are going to start with like top funnel content first to grow the email list. And then once they're on the email list, this is what we need from the email sequence that then will like tease your offer out so that by the time you are launching your offer in December, they're then like warm up enough to buy, that they know enough about you. They know what problems you can solve with that offer. They know why they should buy it now and all that. So it's like it's all like a big marketing ecosystem. The social media is what gets them in through the door, but sometimes it's the other stuff you own, like your email list or your podcast or your YouTube channel, that warms that audience up.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess it sounds more like people generically have I guess a preconceived notion that as a social media person or marketer that you basically
Mm.
build content. And what you're telling me is you don't build content, you build content systems and they operate in an
Yeah. Well,
ecosystem.
I build content systems. I can't say for all social media because some of them who are starting out might focus on the aesthetics thing. So they know how to do like very pretty graphics, but then they don't have an understanding of strategy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. So one of the big questions then is how do you avoid that content fatigue? If you're trying to get a message out based on a brand, how do you stop it from becoming stale and repetitive, etc.? How do you keep it fresh?
So number one way I do it is to repurpose old content. So that
Yeah.
way so usually what happens is I think most of my clients, they have like one form of what I call long form content. So it's something that's a bit longer than social media. So it could be like an email, a monthly email that they send out, or it could be a blog that they write. Maybe they write one blog a month, or a podcast that they book out like every fortnight or something. So that one very long piece of content can then be broken down into multiple small bits. Say for the podcast example, maybe the podcast is covering like how to do your branding, but then inside it, they've got like three different talking points. So they've got like number one, number two, number three. So you can break it down into like number one is a standalone social media post on its own. Then number two could be another social media post. And then number three could be another social media post. Or one and two and three could then be a carousel post. So you see how there's already four social media posts from that one podcast. And then from a podcast, if they record video, it could also turn into like a talking head video or talking head reel on Instagram. It could also go into like a B-roll video where you have maybe like some text that's relevant to the podcast, and then it links to the podcast. So everything just drives back to the podcast, but there's like multiple pieces of content already coming from that one podcast episode. And you can do that for a blog certainly as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That really does sound like
I
leveraging your
think it makes
time.
more sense visually because
Yeah.
maybe as I talk, things pop out above my head to show what I mean. We might have to edit that afterwards.
Yeah, maybe. I think the key point though is that you're really able to leverage that one activity and
Yeah.
spread it across multiple different platforms. And because of the different way it gets presented, it keeps it really fresh, and that's really important. So I guess all right, if I'm an Adelaide business or anywhere in Australia really looking to improve my social media marketing and leverage the piece of content that I write into several different platforms, how do I get started? How do I get in touch with you, and how do I get this thing rolling?
Okay, so you can find me. I'm mainly on Instagram. My handle is FairyFox Digital. I'm on lots of channels, but mainly Instagram. I will reply to Instagram, or you can go to my website, www.fairfoxdigital.com, and you can get in touch there. You can have a look at my services, and there should be a contact form there.
All right, brilliant. Oh, look, thank you very much, Isabel, for sharing your very savvy insights into the social media world and those very
Mhm.
creative systems that you use. I really love the fact that, FairyFox Digital is taking that one piece of content and spreading it across, multiple different areas, doubling traffic. Like you
Mhm.
said, 10,000 views in a week for that
Yeah.
one client that you had, and really without having to double the effort. So, if you
Mm.
are a creative, a coach or a consultant in Adelaide or beyond, anywhere in Australia, do get in touch with Isabel through her Instagram, as she mentioned. You can view her profile on localwebexpert.com.au. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.